Today we're sharing people's camping experiences from hell. We thought we had found the perfect spot near Lake Winnetka for a romantic getaway, but things took a turn when we noticed a silhouetted figure across the lake. What was he doing there? Watch the full video to find out. But first, let us introduce ourselves. We're T2 Sugars, and we're passionate about sharing stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Let me tell you about the time I took my ex-girlfriend on a camping trip. The events I'm about to relive are 100% real. There is a gorgeous spot near Lake Winnetka, perfect for a romantic getaway, or so I thought. The sunset is unreal across the lake. We were sat on the shore, taking in the majesty of nature. Everything seemed right with the world. Then I looked to my left and I saw him, just a lone silhouette figure on the other side of the lake, too far to really get a real good look, but close enough to feel a wave of uncertainty washing over me. The guy stood there, like a statue staring right at us, or so I thought. It was unnerving as hell. I felt a sudden rush of rage and stood up to get a better look. I couldn't see a tent or cabin. It didn't look like he had any fishing gear, just nothing. I was just about to take a walk over when my girlfriend tried to stop me. She told me to leave him alone, but something in me just couldn't let it go. I shouted to him, "Everything okay?" But the man didn't move or reply. It's like he was fixated on us. It was almost like he was seeing through us, like he was in a daydream and couldn't register the real world. My girlfriend in the meantime was convinced he probably wasn't all there. She told me to leave it alone, he's not doing any harm. Eventually I decided to listen to her, thinking maybe she was right. We tried to shrug it off, convinced ourselves he was just an oddball out in the lake for some alone time. That, and he was all the way on the other side of the lake. We set up our camp, hoping to enjoy the night despite the creepy encounter. But it didn't end there. Throughout the night, we kept catching glimpses of that figure. Every time we looked across the lake, he'd be standing in a different spot. We could just see the dark silhouette of him in the moonlight. We was creeped out. To the time, it wasn't enough for us to pack up and leave, or even report him to the police. She was quite a laid-back girl, didn't let anything bother her, and I'm well-built and 6'4", and I don't scare easily. So we wasn't going to let this loon change the course of our romantic getaway. We finished off the night on a high note, if you know what I mean, and bedded down for the night. This is when things get real disturbing. I woke up to my partner screaming, pointing at the tent opening, which was now open with a creepy man's face staring in with a creepy-ass smile, whilst walking back slowly. That wasn't even the weirdest part. He was completely nude. I jumped up like lightning and darted out the tent in just my underwear, leaving her hiding behind the duvet in the tent, half nude herself. The adrenaline was pumping through my veins. Surprisingly, I wasn't quick enough though. This creep was fast. He was in the water so quick, already swimming to the other side of the lake. He looked to be swimming to the exact spot he stood the night before. There was no way I was following him. We packed up and I never took my eyes off him. We called the cops and they searched the area. Despite the accurate description from us, they never found a single trace of him. I've always loved camping. There's something about being alone in nature, away from the noise and stress of the city, that makes me feel alive and free. I've camped in many places, from national parks to remote wilderness, but nothing prepared me for what happened to me last summer. It was late July, and I decided to spend a night in a scheduled forest clearing that I had found online. It was located in a dense woodland area, about an hour's drive from the nearest town. The review said it was a beautiful spot, with a small stream nearby and plenty of wildlife. I packed my tent, sleeping bag, flashlight, food, water and some books and headed out. I arrived at the clearing around 4 p.m. It was a sunny day and the forest was lush and green. I parked my car on the side of the dirt road that led to the clearing and carried my gear to the spot I had chosen. It was a flat patch of grass surrounded by tall trees and bushes. I set up my tent, unrolled my sleeping bag, and arranged my things inside. Then I decided to explore the area a bit. I walked along the stream, admiring the clear water and the colourful stones. I saw a few animals, but no sign of other people. The clearing was quiet and peaceful. I felt relaxed. I returned to my tent around 6 p.m, cooked some noodles on the portable stove, and ate them while reading a book. As the sun began to set, I noticed another tent on the opposite side of the clearing. It was a blue dome-shaped one with a yellow rainfly. I wondered how long they had been there. I hadn't seen or heard anyone when I arrived. I decided to be friendly and introduce myself. I put on my jacket and flashlight and walked across the clearing. As I approached the other tent, I saw a pair of hiking boots outside. They were muddy and wet. I called out, "Hello?" but there was no answer. I thought maybe they were asleep or out for a walk. I decided to leave them a note on their tent flap. "Hi there. I'm your neighbour for the night. Just wanted to say hello and hope you're having a great time. If you need anything or want to chat, feel free to come over to my tent anytime. Cheers." I signed it with my name and drew a smiley face. Then I went back to my tent, got ready for bed, and turned off my flashlight. The night was dark and silent. The only sounds were the gentle breeze in the trees and the occasional hoots of an owl. I felt cozy and warm in my tent. I drifted off to sleep. I woke up around 3 a.m. It was raining heavily outside. The drops pounded on my tent like drum beats. I felt a chill in the air. I zipped up my sleeping bag tighter and tried to go back to sleep. That's when I heard it. A scream. A loud, piercing scream that cut through the rain and made me jump out of my skin. It came from the direction of the other tent. I grabbed my flashlight and unzipped my tent flap. I shone the light across the clearing, but couldn't see anything in the dark, the rain obscuring my vision. The scream came again. This time it sounded more like a cry of pain or terror. I felt a surge of fear. What was going on? Was someone hurt? Was there an animal attack? I had to find out. Pumping full of adrenaline, I made a split decision, put on my jacket and boots, and run towards the other tent. As I got closer, I saw something that made me stop in horror. The other tent was torn apart. The blue fabric was shredded and ripped open. The yellow rainfly was hanging from a branch. The poles were bent and broken. The ground was covered with clothes, books, food wrappers, and camping gear, all soaked with rain and blood. There was no sign of the camper, only footprint. 2 different sets of footprints around the tent and into the thick of the woods. I felt sick to my stomach. My fight or flight started to kick in. I looked around frantically, knowing I could be putting myself in danger. I stopped for a moment to listen for any footsteps, talking, screaming, anything. There was only silence amongst the rain. I felt panic rising in me. I had to get out of there. I had to call the police, and I had to get help. I turned round and ran back to my tent. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, but there was no signal, no bars, no service. I cursed and frantically tried again. Nothing. I felt as if my life was about to end. I was alone in the middle of nowhere with a killer on the loose. I felt sweat rolling down my back. What should I do? Should I stay in my tent and defend myself? Should I hide somewhere in the woods? Or should I pack up and leave right away? Unfortunately, there was no way I was going to try and go out there and help whoever the poor camper was. I didn't know what to do. I was scared and confused. I decided to collapse some of my tent poles, scramble inside and turn off the light, so it looked like it had been abandoned, like I left in a hurry. It also kept me safe from the rain. I didn't want to check my phone for signal in case it gave off a light. I tried to calm myself and think rationally. I told myself it could have been an animal attack. They must have smelled the food or heard the noise and attacked the camper. The 2 footprints, there could have been 2 of them in the tent. Maybe I've jumped to the wrong conclusion. I could have helped. It was a tragic accident, nothing more. It had nothing to do with me. It was over. The animal was gone. It wouldn't come back. It wouldn't bother me. I was safe in my tent, and the campers have gone to get themselves some help. I repeated these words in my head over and over, trying to convince myself they were true. But they weren't true, because as I sat in my tent shivering and trembling, I heard something else. Something worse than a scream. Something that made me go numb, my heart pounding against the ground. A laugh. A low, raspy, sinister laugh. A laugh that came from the woods. A laugh I can hear clearly to this day. It's as if he was laughing because he knew I was there. He could see me. He was coming for me. I burst out of the tent and sprinted towards my car, and then I saw it. A flash of light shining through the forest. I didn't bother looking back. As soon as I got in my car, I realized I had lost my phone in the chaos. I drove to the nearest station and reported everything. The missing camper was found and identified, but the killer was never caught. We were all ready and amped up for this camping adventure in the thick of the woods. The kind of place where cell service goes to die. As we set up our campsite, excitement filled the air. We were ready to take on anything Mother Nature threw at us. As we finished setting up, two of us decided to take a stroll around the surrounding woods. And then, there it was, sat between two trees, what I can only describe as a creepy shrine. There were signs of digging marks all over the ground around this creepy makeshift structure, and worst of all, small bones that looked to be that of small creatures, rabbits, birds, etc., scattered all over the floor. My buddy and I exchanged nervous glances, wondering what the heck had happened here. But it was getting late, and the darkness was creeping in. We clued our other friends in on what we saw and debated packing everything up and getting the heck out of there. But we figured, it's too late to start pulling the tent down, packing everything up and then having the long walk back to the car in the dark. Let's not scare ourselves and get carried away. Let's stay put and leave tomorrow morning. If only I knew what we were in for that night. As night fell, it was like the woods amplified every sound. Snapping of twigs, every rustling leaves, every little sound of the forest was keeping us on edge. We tried to laugh it off, crack a few jokes, quoting the Blair Witch Project, but each one of us knew we were all terrified, and not one of us brought up the creepy ritual structure that we saw. The campfire was our only source of comfort. The flickering flames played tricks with the shadows, which kept me constantly snapping my head in certain directions, sending shivers up my back. Not only that, probably the tension building between us, but we started nitpicking at each other too. Our tent wasn't pulled tight enough, so whenever the wind hit it, it made quite a racket. But that was just the beginning of this awful camping experience. The strange noises from the surrounding woods got worse. It was like something was moving out there, just out of sight, watching us. We couldn't see anything, but we knew we weren't alone. We also knew there wasn't any bears in the area, but we did put it down to a deer. From the noise, it definitely wasn't anything small, but the way it lingered and moved creeped us out something rotten. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, and my heart raced like a freight train. We were all freaked out and on high alert, our senses hyperactive, scanning the darkness for any sign of what could be lurking out there. None of us wanted to call it a night, but one of my buddies threw in the towel and went to bed, and we all followed suit. Safety in numbers, right? Staring up at the flapping tent, it took me a good 20 minutes to fall asleep, and then I woke to a scream echoing through the woods. It was definitely a reminder of everything we was dreading that night. I was shaking, staring at two of my friends that was also alert to what had just happened. One of my buddies we had to wake up. The fact that he slept through still tickles me to this day. What the heck was going on? We sat there inside our tent, what seemed like an eternity, nudging the stockiest one out of the four of us to check it out. He also happened to be the one that was still asleep when the scream occurred, but as you would have thought, he didn't oblige. We quietly muttered to ourselves with dry voices, discussing what it could be. What animals make noises like that? Whilst we tried to deceive ourselves, the only thing I could think of was that scream and that creepy structure we found in the woods. We were all thinking it. We all were thinking something awful. Morning couldn't come fast enough. When the sun finally broke through the trees, we wasted no time tearing down our campsite. We didn't care about leaving the odd bits behind, we just wanted to get out of there. As we walked out of those woods, I swear we all felt like we were being watched. We shouted into the forest silly things like, "We're going to send for help. Don't think you're going to get away with what you've been up to." As soon as we hit the road and we got signal, my buddy called the police and told them everything. I still don't know what happened in those woods, and I'm not sure I want to find out. We encourage you to take a closer look at the world around you and appreciate the beauty in the unexpected. Don't forget to hit the like button and share this video with your friends. We'll see you in the next one.